I am that I am, Saint Germain in service, and I welcome you on this evening. I'd like to ask you all at this point just to take a breath, to pause. Energy on the planet this time of the year can be quite chaotic, can be hectic. It can bring up a lot of emotions for people around this time because of your celebration of Christmas. And then leading into the new year, many start to reflect back upon the last year. What did I do? Did I fulfill what I set out to do? Or did I stray from my goals or the paths that I had set out? And so you have this collective consciousness of people who are feeling quite erratic because they have to either face their families or they're facing themselves because this is a reflective time of year. And then when you consider the solstice, which falls around this time also, and for us in the southern hemisphere, there was the summer solstice, and so this is a time of great light, of clarity, of illumination. This is a time of heightened energy, although you will find that many of you were feeling quite flat because the energy was so intense on your bodies that it actually had the opposite effect. It drained it a little, and I've spoken of this before, where one's body cannot keep up with the intensity of the energy and the new energy that's coming to the planet. Others will be feeling quite energized. And then on the other side of the world, the energies are pointing more to going inwards, which reflects again with the human new year. So at this time, I asked that we put our channeling evening back because I knew that the energies were quite intense last week, and I wanted there to be time for integration. And there is still integration going on, but prior to this week, many of you were still in the thick of it all. The energy now is starting to settle, it's starting to calm. And for you in this hemisphere, now the wheel turns, and you are going into the energies of the darker half of the year as the sun begins to wane. And so, in this time, I ask you all to be very gentle with yourselves, and I know I say this a lot, but it is very important at this point in time because you will find that the intensity of the energies around you from the collective human consciousness are going to be particularly potent, and they're going to be draining for those of you who have one foot in the game and one foot out of the game. And notice that I refer to it as a game. So many of you are still getting caught up in it. This human game, this life game, and the many layers within it. You have the mainstream human game, the one that you were indoctrinated into as children and raised into. This game that says you must act a certain way, that you must have a job, that you must look a certain way, that you must eat a certain way, that you must entertain yourselves in certain ways. And I really want to stress at this time because for those of you with one foot in and one foot out, you're starting to see the hypnosis. You are starting to see that, hang on, all is not as you thought it was. and that's okay. But this is a dangerous point though, because at this point, many humans get pulled into another energy web, another energy stream. And this pulls you in down that rabbit hole, if you like, of conspiracy theories, of the government is trying to hold us down. Now, I want to level the playing field here. Those in power are just as unconscious as those you find yourself in everyday society. They don't know that they are holding you down because they don't understand that they are unconscious themselves. So remember that. They are another soul, equal to you, but their consciousness isn't quite there yet. They act the way they do because they do not have the awareness. Any being who is aware, any being who cultivates any level of consciousness will generally not act in the way or set up a society and hold it in the way that it is right now. Your society is as it is. Actually, that is a very important point. It is as it is. Don't get caught up in it, or let it be what it is. But it also is as it is because of unconsciousness. But I know all of you now are starting to see the awareness coming back in. People's attitudes changing. People waking up to themselves and to what is around them. But at all times, and I cannot stress this enough, and I'm saying this a lot, but allow what is around you to be. The more you try to fight it, the more it is going to amplify for you. Because then your mind gets involved. Then you get stuck in your head. And when you are in your head, you are not in consciousness. And this is very easy to do at this time of year when everyone's emotions are running high. And when people seem to go into their programmed patterns and programmed emotional responses. And this is why many of you have been finding that it's been very easy to push trigger buttons on different people who are not aware. Because at this time, with the stress that humans create around this day called Christmas, and then throw in the family patterning and programming, many will fall back into their default patterning and programming. And many of you will notice this too, particularly if you have not seen family for a long time. You will feel that you've really worked on yourself, you've really come to a sense of your being, and then you step back into your family and all of a sudden you are wearing another costume. This is normal because when you are pulled into that energy, the patterns are much easier to play. It's easy to fall into that. And as I spoke about last time, these entrenched energy patterns are quite hard to pull yourself out of, and they're very easy to fall back into. But what I really want to emphasize right now is that these are all different layers. These are all different energy patternings and programmings that exist in this reality. When one comes to the I am, when one comes to a understanding of themselves and their consciousness, they no longer stand in any of those programmed patterns. They no longer stand in this reality. You can be on this planet and be living a completely different reality. And for the aware one, they become the witness to the patterns. They become a witness to these programmings. And another thing I also want to point out is that there is this misperception that when one becomes enlightened, when one realizes their I am, that these patterns don't exist anymore. But understand that it is all you. Every single thing that happens on this planet or in this reality or whatever goes through your mind, it is all an expression of you. You can call it God, it does not matter. All the words that humans use to describe this thing are entrenched in more projections, so I try not to put an emphasis on a word. But you must understand that through being enlightened, you are not denying any single part of yourself. You are encompassing your entire self, and you are accepting, not fighting, every single aspect of your being, including those that the human would perceive to be bad. It is all you. But it is all about accepting and understanding that it is all you. And when you come to that point, it can no longer affect you. You become the witness to that. And when you have brought that awareness in, you can actually choose to enter in and out of each aspect. And it becomes a bit of a game. I want to experience this aspect of my being today, or this minute or hour. It doesn't really matter. But at the same time, you can step back into it. There's no getting stuck. Because many of you feel stuck. You get caught in your patterns and your programmings, and you go round and round and round, and I see you get frustrated. How do I get out of this? And there's no one prescribed way to do it. If anything, you've got to stop trying. Because the more you try, the more you put your human projections upon it. And the more you try to change it, the more you are saying, this thing is wrong. This thing is bad. And I do not want it. But take it up another level. There's no such thing as good and bad. It's all just a piece of the spectrum. So instead of fighting it, allow it to be what it is, and you will see that soon as you allow this, whatever it is, whatever you're feeling stuck in, it could be an emotion, it could be a situation, it could be a person, it does not really matter. Soon as you allow it to be what it is, no longer will it have any hold on you anymore. Because it is your projection of, I don't want this, and I must fight against it, which is actually making it stick to you and stick around. And I know that this is also another programming, particularly of the last age, the Piscean age, of which you are now moving out of, and it was very masculine. It was, we must fight against this. We must carve a path. It no longer works like that in the new energy. The new energy is about surrender. The new energy is about bowing gracefully. It does not mean that you are walked all over. It does not mean that you accept bad behavior or situation in regards to letting someone treat you badly, but there are different ways in which you approach it. When you approach a situation or a thought or an emotion or a person with full acceptance that this is what is happening right now, then there is space, the energy moves, and then it can be changed. But I really want to emphasize to you that there is no need to force or push anymore. Let it flow in. Let it come to you. And I know many of you will then say, well, I should start doing my affirmations to let it come to me. No, you're getting stuck in the mind again. And I know I say this a lot, but the mind does not have the power that humans give it. It's a navigation system, and very much an old, outdated computer now with these new energies. It's time to start coming into that feeling center. It is time to really bring yourself into that intuitive knowingness that each and every one of you have. It just depends on how much you have learned to listen to it and cultivate it. But you all have that inner knowing, you all have your gut instincts, and now is the time to start acting on those. Because when you do that, where you are moving and where the energy is flowing becomes a lot clearer. And it doesn't have to make sense to the mind. You'll find that the mind will not be able to make sense of a lot of what you do now, particularly as your awareness continues to grow. The mind just cannot navigate this reality anymore. But you can utilize the mind in order to navigate physical reality. That is what it is there for, to keep you safe. But I do not want to see any of you doing affirmations anymore. It's old, it's outdated, and it does not serve you. Come to your heart space. Come to your inner knowing. Come to your feeling center. And trust that it'll flow in. Much of the time when people begin with their affirmations, they are asking for what they want through the mind. And what the mind wants and what the soul wants generally isn't the same. The mind is very much caught up in the ego. And when I say ego, I'm talking about programmed patternings. And programs that society has taught you. I will be happier if I live in a better house. I will be happier if I have more money. I'll be happier if I look a certain way. I know I'm presenting very, I guess you could say, materialistic kind of presentation to you, but it doesn't really matter what it is. In your mind you have a projection of what happiness is, and I'm going to tell you right now to drop it, because that is hindering you. I want you to drop the idea of even having happiness right now, because that is hindering you. Humans have this idea that if they are a spiritually aware being, that they are happy all the time. This is not true. A spiritually aware being has the entire spectrum of emotions and completely lives each emotion, but is not attached to the emotion. And it is, I guess, for the human a strange space to be in, because there can be almost a joy in sadness, because it is an emotion, it's a different aspect of your being that you are experiencing. It's all about coming back to that still point. There's so much noise, so much busyness in all your heads. Come back to the still point. That's where your intuition talks to you. And that's where you just know. Do not put questions on your knowingness. The more you act upon your knowingness, the more your intuition will come through, and you will know exactly where to go, what to do, what to say, who to interact with. And it won't be from a place of gaining. And that is the other thing you will lose when you really come back to your full awareness. You'll understand that there is nothing at all to gain, because it is all in you. And that, dear ones, is freedom. When you are no longer seeking to gain anything, this reality, this planet Earth becomes a playground. What am I going to experience today? Not, what am I going to gain today? One of the things that I often hear those on their spiritual path, as they like to call it, is, how do I better myself? How do I be a better person? And I say to you all, you can't be a better person. Not even if you tried, because you are that. You are the I am, you are the stillness, you are God. I won't say universe because there are multiverses and different realities. Stop limiting yourself to just this universe. Step outside of the universe. Come back to the stillness that created this universe and all other universes, because that is you. Can't be a better person because you are it. You can create different expressions of yourself, but if you are constantly creating different expressions of yourself from the idea that you want to be a better person, then you've lost the idea. It's about experience. You are here to have a human experience. So what experiences are you allowing yourself to have? And what experiences are you creating because you feel you must gain something? It's all within you. You cannot gain one little thing. Every time you look outwards, you are looking at yourself. You look at another being, you are looking at yourself. I know some of you struggle with the oneness idea, but even if you cannot resonate with this concept, at least when you look at another, or it does not matter what it is, you could look at the carpet that came from you. Remember always that you are the spark. Your creation experiencing itself. So stop looking outside of yourself for what you already are. Because you'll drive yourself all crazy, and I'm watching you all drive yourselves crazy. You don't need your rituals, you don't need the different practices. You, by all means, enjoy the experience of them. But many of these practices that humans create are created to crack them until they get so fed up and frustrated with themselves and with life and everything, then all of a sudden, there it is, I am. But you don't have to put yourself through the trials, you don't have to put yourself through it all. Even the situations you create in your lives, right down to the parents that you chose to be born through. Many of you chose them in order to crack yourself, so you can come back to your awareness. It's not necessary, you just are that. You can step into it right now. Feel into that. If you really chose to, and it is a choice, you could come to your awareness right now. Or not, and that is your choice too, so don't fight yourself on it. Humans spend so much of their time fighting themselves about different things. If only, if only, if only. Put it aside. I don't want to hear the if onlys anymore. They're just excuses. They're just more ways of creating more distractions and filters and just ways of keeping you further from who you are. But in this new energy, you don't need to do anything to come to the state of your being. It is much easier than it used to be. And even in the old energies, you didn't need to. It made it easier because it helped to raise the vibrations. But if a being really chose to, in that moment, they would realize that it is all them. And that is the thing. Once you come to that realization, none of these webs, none of these programmings, the collective consciousness, nothing can really hold you back anymore. You're free. And from that space of freedom, you can choose to engage or not engage. It's all up to you. Are there any questions? I would ask you at this point in time to let go of the idea of lessons. This is another programming I've watched many, particularly who prescribe to New Age thinking, get stuck in. It's all lessons. I'm going to learn another lesson, and when I've learned that lesson, I'm going to learn another lesson. I'm going to learn this lesson from this person, and this lesson from these people, and it's another energy, it's an energy pattern you get stuck in. How many lessons do you want to learn, or do you just want to step out of it altogether? Because it is quite easily, because of the complexity of your nature, to get stuck in learning lessons. You could go on for infinity learning lessons, because that is the depth of your being. Now, what the new generation are bringing through is you'll find that because the energies are much lighter now, you'll find more aware beings being incarnated. Not all of them. I'm going to stress this, not all of them. But because the energy is less dense now, you'll find that higher vibrating beings can now come through. And with that, they bring their own wisdom, they bring their own energy, and they I guess you could say, help to anchor a lot of the higher vibrational energy that is anchoring itself on this planet right now. Whether you want to learn a lesson from them or not is truly up to you. You can observe them, see how they act, see how they view the world, get a different perspective on life, of this planet, of how to be. But I do not want you all learning lessons anymore, because you're all stuck in them. Whenever something bad happens, I see you all, you go, oh well, I've learnt this lesson now. It was another test, it was another trial. No, it just was. Simply was. It was an experience. Nothing more, nothing less. It was an experience of your being. It was an experience of the potential that is within you. But by all means, listen to the younger ones that are coming through. Some will share wisdom, others will not. I'm going to be quite frank about that. Because you must understand that this cycle of reincarnation, many people don't choose, they just get pulled straight back into the energy patterns that they're stuck in. They'll incarnate straight back into the same family with the same souls and create the same lives or similar lives and patterns, and they'll just keep doing it on and on and on until at some point they decide to break out of it. But I would say that still about 70% of those souls on this planet are still doing that. They're not even aware that they're dying and incarnating again. They're just completely sucked back into the cycle. But then you have that other 30%, which are higher beings, or I do not want to say higher because we're all equal. And any being that decides to say to you that they are higher than you, do not entertain them. They are unconscious. We are all equal. You are equal to the angels. You are equal to any being that you would consider yourself, that consider to be higher than any human. You are all equal. Let's level the playing ground right now. It's just different levels of consciousness. And just because you're in a human body doesn't mean that you cannot hold a vibration that is equal to the angelics. Because that is within you. And so this 30% that are coming through now, because the energies of this reality now allow for it, they hold a different vibration, they hold a higher frequency. So allow yourself to experience them. And perhaps maybe their presence on this planet will spark a reminder in other beings on this planet as to the truth of their nature. But do not get caught up in lessons, because that in itself is a trap. It is what it is, and let it all just flow and be. When you come back to the I am, when you become the witness, and you take a step back, you realize that there's nothing to learn, because once again it is all you. Does this make sense? Are there any other questions?
Got one. We take like a medical intuitive. Is it mumbo jumbo when you've got say a physical ailment in a particular part of the body? Is that to bring attention to something that's going on, like an alarm bell, or is it just an experience?
It's an experience, and it really depends on what reality you wish to dwell in. Do you want to dwell in the reality where your toe tells you certain things about yourself? Or do you want to transcend that? Because that is what I am encouraging you all to do. Because I see you all get so caught up in, oh, my knee hurts, what does that mean? I got to look it up in the book. Stop it. When you come back to yourself, when you come back to the I am, when you come to that stillness, it all will align anyway. You're being experiencing having a human body with a sore knee. Let yourself have the experience. You obviously chose the experience for a reason. Why do you need a book to tell you why you're having the experience? Wouldn't you, as the being who is having the experience, know why you're having that? Stop giving your power away. Come back to yourselves. You all know. You may not realize you know, but you know. And that's the other thing too. And I know that humans get very much caught up in their bodies, because there is this sort of underlying fear of death. Particularly when the Abrahamic faiths really instilled that fear. If I die, there's a potential I'm going to go to hell. That put a lot of fear into a lot of beings that is still, even if they do not identify with any of the Abrahamic faiths, even if they say that they are an atheist, there is still that fear of death. Because that fear of death was so programmed into the consciousness of so many beings that soon as any being experiences any sort of pain or ailment, illness, they panic. If you don't panic, if you allow it to be what it is, I think you'll all find that it will just heal and resolve very quickly on its own without any issue. Let yourself have the experience. I have the flu. Let yourself have the flu. Just let it be. Don't say affirmations to get rid of the flu. You're stuck in your mind again. And your mind's saying this flu is bad, and now you have emphasized how bad this thing is, and now you've really blown it up. Come back to your stillness. I'm a being experiencing what it's like to have a body that has the flu. There's a sacredness in that too. Only if you step out of it. When you do that, the body comes into alignment naturally anyway. Many of these illnesses that you'll create, it's another way of trying to crack yourselves. But can I just say this to you, that there's no such thing as death. Yes, the body dies, but you don't die. Keep going. Just keep going. Now, as to what happens after is completely up to your level of awareness and your consciousness. That is all up to you. Because souls have a lot more freedom than they realize they do on this planet. And you'll find that there are many souls who do get caught in that incarnation cycle. Or you'll get souls who get stuck in between different worlds because they just don't quite understand that there's no such thing as death. That's where you see hauntings. But if you really allow yourself to cultivate that consciousness, if you really come to your I am, when you leave this body, it'll be a conscious choice. And then the next point is completely up to you. That's very expansive. That's freedom. So don't get caught up on the little things. So many of you get caught up on the little things. They don't matter. If you're having an experience, have the experience. All of a sudden you'll see that the experience isn't as bad as what the mind is making it out to be. And oftentimes when you create that space, you step out of the programming and it will resolve anyway. It's all about grace. It's all about acceptance. To the soul, having a sore toes is quite exciting. It's another experience. The human might begin to panic, but be kind to your human and let it panic. Just step back. Take a breath. It is all okay. Are there any other questions?
From these continuing patterns in our reincarnation cycles, in our karmic cycles.
As I said earlier, there's no pattern, there's no formula, there's no practice that will bring you there. Ultimately, any ritual, any practice, any formula that any human chooses to follow is more of, and I do not want to, I guess, let you all down, but it's a way of leading you away from yourself. Many of you will have profound experiences through your practices. Many of you will have the greatest clarities through your rituals and through your disciplines. But do they ultimately bring you back to yourself? Do they ultimately cause enlightenment? The answer is no. You can do them, you can have the experience of them, and I do not want to take away from the amazing experiences that many of you have from your practices, your rituals, your routines. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be as simple as lighting a candle every morning. That is your practice. It could be yoga, it could be any number of shamanic ritual, it could be drugs, it does not matter. All of these things, all of these teachings that were passed on from the older ones before who have reached enlightenment, these practices were given to you because you all still needed a distraction, because you were all still afraid to come to your awareness like that. Because you can just decide, and there it is. But for many of you, you go, no, I just want little pieces, I want little increments, I just want to have a little experience of myself. But how many little experiences of yourself do you need before you get bored of it and go, this isn't getting me anywhere? And I will say to you all, you will understand this when it happens. And I've seen many laugh at the things they put themselves through. Because ultimately, even the practices are you. You don't need them. You can keep doing them until you get so frustrated that all of a sudden, there it is, I am. And I don't want to take them away from you because I know so many of you really gain something from them. You feel you gain something from them, but then there is the point. There's nothing to gain. There's a game that you all like to play that you feel that you must do things to gain, but it's all you. So nothing is going to crack you but yourself. You just have to make the decision. I am. And there it all is. And I know I make that sound frustratingly simple, but when it happens you'll realize how frustratingly simple it is, and that it wasn't necessary to put yourselves through all the things that you did. But then you will also find that many of you, when you come to that awareness, when you come to your enlightenment, will actually continue to still do your practices and your rituals because now you are experiencing them for what they are. Not because you are trying to gain something from them, but because you enjoy the experience of them. And there is a big difference between that. So no, there's nothing you can really do except to just decide and allow. Constantly allow. Without getting caught in the mind. Because the mind will want to get involved. Don't let the mind get involved. Watch the mind. Allow